All right. Good morning on this Memorial Day weekend. It's cold and rainy, but it's okay. It is still the weekend. It's been a long time since I've sat here and done anything. I've been working with some, things in my head and putting some things together. So to get back and sit back here and talk about things and do some podcast stuff. And so we're gonna try to each every other week do this bi-weekly, at the very least once a month. But do a little podcast early Sunday morning to get the day going on this cold Sunday, Memorial Day weekend. But it feels good to sit back here in the chair and do some things. So, for anybody that watches or listens, I always appreciate that. A lot of times people go live, they expect something crazy, like some kind of, I don't know, breakdown or announcement or something like that. No, this is just me just sitting here, just yakking, gabbing away, however you want to say it. But anyway, always appreciative of people that check me out and listen to me and comment and things like that. So, but I'm excited, and it's been a long time. So I'm excited. My oldest daughter, she just turned 18, and she graduated high school. It was a very emotional thing to see your child graduate from school and walk that stage and receive their diploma. Her sister's in going into the 10th grade, so a couple more years, and her sister will be doing the same thing. So yesterday, my oldest daughter and we went out to do some shoe shopping. I told her I'd get her some shoes, and she wanted some Converse Chuck Taylors. It's very strange that when you look at the differences of generations and what they like and what's trendy and things like that, it's weird because when I was a kid, you always wanted everything big. You wanted Jordans or Bo Jacksons or Deion Sanders or something big, some name brand athlete shoe. Kids today, they want Crocs and Converse and Vans and Skechers and different things. Very, very weird. It's nothing wrong with it. You are who you are. You like what you like, but it's very, very weird. So we were walking through the mall yesterday, and for anyone around here that's been to our mall, it's very sad, to be honest with you, because the mall is in no way, shape, or form what it used to be when we were kids. There's very little stores and not much going on. Not even a lot of people walking through it. So most of the stores are boarded up with some kind of picture, design, or mural, whatever the case may be. But as we were walking from store to store and looking at different shoes, of course she already knew what she wanted, but I still wanted to look. And out of all the stores we went into, there was only one store where a single person that worked there acknowledged that we walked in and spoke to us and asked if we wanted help. Now, from a person that comes from a retail background, it drove me nuts. Absolutely drove me nuts, and I just couldn't stand it. I didn't say anything. It doesn't do any good. You don't know these people. They may have had a bad day or something. I don't know. But coming from a retail background, it absolutely drove me nuts. So we finally get to the store where the shoes that she wanted was there, and they were Converse. I think they were like double soled or something. But we get the shoes, and so we go on about it, and she says that she wants to go to Aeropostale. She likes that store. And if you've never been in one, it's a very young store, targeted toward teens and young adults. We walk into the store, and the first thing that I see, there's a sign on a table with blue jeans, and the sign said something like 90s baggy jeans. That had some kind of catchy slogan. They're coming back, and B90s or something like that. And I stood there as I read it, and I was like, "Holy cow!" The 90s in your head, if you're an 80s and 90s kid like myself, the 90s in your head seems like at best 10 years ago. But in reality, it's 23 years ago, it's 25 years ago, it's 30 years ago. And it really struck me, you know, what was in your mind a few years ago was decades ago. And I'm looking at the sign and I'm thinking, man, when we were kids, there wasn't that much of that going on in our fashion. You had some kids that may have wore bell bottoms or something, or corduroy pants or something like that. But the thought that something that seems like yesterday to you is being brought to your children as a fashion. What really tripped me out the most is that the the jeans weren't even that baggy. Like in the 90s, especially like in the mid to late 90s, jeans were humongous. And there's this scene in what was the movie with Alicia Silverstone? Um, Clueless. Yeah, it was Clueless, where the guys keep getting bigger pants, and for their pants to be bigger than the other one. And when I looked at these baggy pants that Aeropostale was advertising, they weren't even that baggy at all. They were just loose. And I would have taken a picture of it, but I didn't want to seem like a creeper, taking a picture of a sign in the store targeted toward young adults, and it just looked creepy. So I didn't end up doing it. But it was very, very odd, though. It makes you feel old, I guess. I mean, I'll be 45 in a few weeks, and that's not old by any means. But when you start seeing things recycled from your childhood, it does to a degree make you feel old. And there's shoes that just constantly get recycled and recycled. Retroed, um, is what they call it. From Jordans to whatever. It always comes back, always comes back. And it really, really struck me that 90s clothes was being brought back. It just blew my mind. Blew my mind. But you never think about that. You never think about how far ago, how long ago your era, your childhood was. Very, very strange. Very, very strange to actually sit down and really think about it and really absorb it. It's very, very strange. So, but anyway, but no, I'm back and I'm working on things, putting things together, trying to do this bi-weekly at the very least once a month, um, as time allows it, as long as I'm not busy. But no, it feels good. It feels good to sit here and do this again. So last night I was watching, like most people, Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. And if you're not a basketball fan, or at least a full-time basketball fan, there are a lot of people out there that don't watch it. They just watch ESPN and make their assessment of who's who and who's best, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But last night, Game 6, we'll just take it back because The Celtics were down 3 games to none. There's an interesting, statistic about being down 3 games to none in the NBA playoffs, and I believe there's been 150 teams that have been down 3 games to none, and none of them have come back to win the series. None of them. So, watching the game last night, Boston was up going into the 4th quarter. I believe at one point, they were up by like 11 points, 10 or 11 points. And Miami, little by little by little, they chip away. Now, Jimmy Butler, the star of the Heat, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy playoff Jimmy is what they refer to him as. Up until the 4th quarter, he was just a non-factor. He was non-existent. And with a few seconds left in the game, he comes down, pulls up for a three, and Al Horford fouls him. Puts Jimmy at the line. He makes all 3 shots, and Miami goes up. Boston calls a timeout. Bring the ball down the court. Marcus Smart pulls up for a 3, misses it. His teammate grabs the rebound and puts it back in with like .2 of a second left and won the game, forcing a Game 7 back in Boston on Monday. It was incredible. If you didn't watch it live, by all means, it will be on SportsCenter all day long. All day today, all day tomorrow, all day long. Fantastic finish, great game. And I'm kind of torn between the 2 teams, to be honest with you. Boston was my father's favorite team. My father grew up watching the Celtics of the 60s and Bill Russell and, all those guys winning 11 championships and watching Larry Bird and everybody. So Boston was my father's team. So I kind of cheer for them the same way I do as I cheer for the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. Even though I'm a 49ers fan, but I still cheer for the Browns because of my father. So I'm kind of torn between Boston and Miami going to the finals. I don't dislike Jimmy Butler by any means, but I like his ability to overcome adversity. He's a guy that really, from the beginning, wasn't really looked at as a top tier kind of talent, a superstar. Uh, and Jimmy's been bounced back forth between 4 or 5 teams in the last several years, so it's kind of hard to really look at him and put him in the same category as other superstars just for the fact that he keeps moving, moving, moving. But Miami, Miami has a great coach in Eric Spoelstra. They have a great leader in Jalen. They have great pieces around them. Matter of fact, Miami has a lot of guys that were undrafted, and those guys worked hard at their craft. They got better. They have a great coach in Spoelstra. They talk about the culture all the time in Miami. So it'll be interesting to see what happens come Monday in Game 7 back in Boston. We shall see. I will be watching as well as I'm sure everybody else will be watching. So I'm anxious to see that, see what happens, and anxious to see who's going to go on to play the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals. But basketball, though, they recently on Hulu, you can catch it on Hulu, did a reboot or remake, whatever you want to call it, of the 1992 classic White Men Can't Jump. And if you're in your 40s and over, maybe even your 30s too, you're very familiar with the movie. Very, very familiar with the movie. And it's a classic for many reasons. The original White Men Can't Jump, starring Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. Hold on just one moment. Oh, right. So the original White Men Can Jump came out in 1992. I was, what, 12, something like that. Classic movie starring Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes. Can't forget about Rosie Perez. Can't forget about Kadeem Hardison, excuse me. And it's a classic movie. So they redo it, they remake it, they reboot it. And the new one has come out on Hulu, and I watched it, and it was different. A lot of times with remakes, they kind of stick to the same script. But this one, though, this one, let me see, let me pull this up here, just a moment here. This one's storyline, it was similar to it. I mean, it had the same premise, it had the same, uh, not necessarily the same plot, but very very close. Let me pull this up here. Let me 1 second here. And the new one, uh, I may pronounce his name wrong, but it'll be okay. It stars Cinqua Walls and Jack Harlow, and also has Lance Reddick. And the reason why I bring Lance Reddick up is because Lance Reddick is an actor that has been in many things, many movies, many TV appearances, and he just recently passed away. But the remake of White Men Can't Jump, it was well, I'm gonna give you some spoilers here. So if you haven't watched it, just fast forward past this part. So the original 1992 version with Woody and Wesley, it was well. First of all, they meet up. The iconic scenes of Woody hustling Wesley there in the beginning, and then they team up to make money and hustle other people. The new version of that has that as well, but unlike the original, there's not much story outside of the two leading roles. Not much story. In the original 92 version, you had your storyline with Woody and Rosie Perez. You had some storyline with Wesley Snipes and his wife in the movie. And Rosie Perez had a pretty big part in the movie. If you want to look at it this way, her character was, as far as the plot of the movie and the importance of the movie, had just as much to do with it as Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. But in the new one, though, the wives, the girlfriends, kind of put on the back burner, and it just didn't feel the same. It didn't feel the same. And in the end, they have the basketball tournament. I think in this one it was like $500,000 or something. In the original, I believe it was like 5 grand or 6 grand. It wasn't very much. Which I don't know what basketball tournaments are around that the payout is 500 grand. I have no idea, but I need to move there. Uh, but it's very different. It wasn't bad. Again, it wasn't bad, but it was very different. Jack Harlow, I'm familiar with him. I know he's an artist. He's a rapper. He does have the one song that he samples off for free. I don't know what the name of the track is, but they played on the radio. I've heard it on the radio a few times. His acting was okay. I know that I've read some stuff online about how people kind of slammed him. I mean, first of all, he's not an actor. He's acting, but he's not an actor. And I thought he did a pretty good job. There were some times where outside of the comedic scenes, he really struggled at some of it. But the comedy was okay. The chemistry wasn't bad, but you're not going to have the same chemistry as you had with Wesley and Woody for the simple fact that they were up and coming actors, and Woody Harrelson had been in a few movies, had been on Cheers. Wesley Snipes had been in a few movies. They actually were in the movie together, Wildcats with Goldie Hawn back in the late '80s. So they were bona fide actors, is what they were. And Jack Harlow coming in, just being brand new, I thought he did a pretty good job. And if he sticks with it, it'll get better. It'll get better, but not bad. Not bad at all. So if you get a chance to check it out, it's on Hulu. And I think it's about, I don't think it's quite 2 hours long, but give it a shot. If you want to come back and let me know what you think of it, it's not bad at all. So, give it a shot. So, but a lot of things are going on, in the world. I'd seen the other day where the iconic, the legendary, the queen of rock and roll is what they call her. Tina Turner passed away. And it's a very sad day, uh, a time, for music. And Tina Turner is an icon. She's a legend. I remember my first time seeing her as a kid was she had I believe the album was the Private Dancer album. And as a kid in the '80s, you really had no idea how big she was. But I still remember to this day, the video for What's Love Got to Do with It. And she's like walking through the park or something and walking along the fence line and doing a little dance moves and things like that. But you don't realize at that time as a kid how big of an artist she was. You don't realize how big her story was, being married to Ike Turner, and the terrible things that she went through, um, being in that relationship. It's well documented. And the, just the horrible situation that she was in. And there was the movie of What's Love Got to Do with It, and it starred Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne. My favorite scene in the movie is when they go to court and she tells the judge, she says, basically, I don't care about anything else. You can have it all. What I do care about is my stage name, Tina Turner. I worked too hard for that to let him have it. And I thought that was pretty impressive because it shows what that meant to her, and how much time and energy she put into it, and how it rightfully belonged to her. And I thought that was pretty great that the judge granted her to keep that name because it allowed her to go on and be the Tina Turner that we know today. And I thought that was my favorite part of the movie is when she did that. And let me pull this up here real quick. Let's see. There we go. Let me get this right here. So Tina Turner, she was born Anna Mae Bullock, November 26th, 1939. She was known as the Queen of Rock and Roll. She rose to prominence as the lead singer of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue before launching a successful career as a solo performer. In the '80s, Turner launched one of the greatest comebacks in music history. Her 1984 multi platinum album, Private Dancer, contained the hit song What's Love Got to Do with It, which won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year and became her first and only number one song on the Billboard Hot 100. At age 44, she was the oldest female solo artist to top the Hot 100. And her chart success continued with Better Be Good to Me, Private Dancer, We Don't Need Another Hero, Thunderdome, Typical Male, The Best, I Don't Want to Fight, and Golden Eye. Let's see. During her Break Every Rule tour in 1988, she set a then Guinness World Record for the largest playing audience, 180,000 for a solo performer. Wow, 180,000. Turner also acted in the films Tommy, 1975, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, 1985. Of course, in 93, What's Love Got to Do with It? A biography film adapted from her autobiography. You know, I'd read something the other day about how she was offered a role in The Color Purple, and it said that she turned it down because because the things in her life that she'd gone through, she didn't want to really relive that and be a character and remind herself of what she had gone through with her ex-husband Ike Turner, and so she chose to do Mad Max Thunderdome, and I thought that when you read that and you let that sink in, you know, it really goes to show, um, how much of that part of her life affected her. So I can understand where she was coming from that. Absolutely, absolutely. So, but Tina Turner passed away the other day. Iconic, not just an iconic performer, an iconic singer, an iconic artist, but a iconic person and someone for women to look at and say that I can do that too. And um a role model is what she is. So and made Tina Turner's legacy forever live on. Miss Anime, Tina Turner. You know, I was reading an article the other day about social media. Social media and your kids. And I remember years ago when my kids first got cell phones. And I was a little frightened, I'm gonna be honest with you, because a smartphone is a literal computer in the palm of your hand. And you have the world in the palm of your hand, good and bad. You have it in the palm of your hand. And it did. I was kind of uneasy in the beginning. You know, kids are innocent, but the problem is that, the world isn't. And that was my biggest fear. Even still now, now that they're 18 and 15 now, and you still as a parent kind of worry about what they're exposed to. So we never had that as a kid. Obviously, smartphones didn't come around until recently. We didn't have that, but it does kind of make you sit back and wonder, you know, not only what they're looking at, but who's talking to them, who's communicating with them, who's watching them. You know, kind of scary when you really think about it. But psychologists have issued new social media guidelines for adolescents, and here's what parents need to know. And this is by Priscilla Blossom. So, parents have struggled to know what limits to place on their children when it comes to social media use, and they finally have some answers. This week, a presidential panel of the APA, the American Psychological Association, released new findings and recommendations on social media use by tweens and teens. Social media usage among adolescents is quickly becoming a major public and mental health problem. As such, these recommendations by the APA are especially welcome because they are evidence based and practical, says Dr. Nathan Carroll, resident psychiatrist at Jersey Shore University Medical Center. The new guidelines are based on short term studies conducted on thousands of adolescents, meaning experts are still learning more about the effects of social app use on young people. Here's where parents should know for now. Much like adults, teens and tweens can benefit from finding community via social media. This is especially true for adolescents who struggle to connect with others in person, including the LGBTQ youth, teens struggling with anxiety and depression, or and others who lack support at home. Adolescents can benefit from having their social apps tailored to their social and cognitive abilities and comprehension. Psychologist and parenting expert Rena B. Patel advises parents to assess the social and emotional development and readiness for their kids, as in their ability to think and reason when faced with a challenge. Ask yourself questions like: how impressionable is my teen? What behaviors show me their self esteem is strong? How do they respond to peer pressure? Do they have a tendency to model negative behaviors? Says Patel. You know, it's a very big thing. Very, very big thing. I can't even begin to imagine how different my life growing up would have been had we had smartphones. Can't even begin to imagine what it would have been like. Having, I mean, it's just I don't even know where to begin with that. When we were kids, before social media, you had to get someone's phone number to speak to them outside of school. If you met someone, let's just say you played sports or you attended a sporting event for your school at another school, you met someone, you befriended them. The only way you talked to them was if you had their phone number. Very, very different now. People can look you up. They can message you. They can call you. They can video chat with you. It's a very different world. Sometimes dangerous world. Very different. Sanam Hafiz, psychologist and director of Comprehend the Mind, also recommends that prior to allowing their children to use social media, parents consider whether they are good about following the rules, having respect for others, and being able to regulate their emotions. To tailor a child's social media experience, Hafiz also offers the following steps: disable private messaging at least until the child has demonstrated the ability to communicate respectfully and responsibly online. Disable location sharing. Disable commenting until the child has demonstrated the ability to communicate respectfully and positively interact with others online. Disable in app purchases, but that is a big one. A big one. A lot of, I've had friends, I've known people, I know people who, for whatever reason, their kid, um, had access to, let's just say, their debit or credit card, and was just buying stuff offline through apps and whatever. It's a very, very big thing. Disable live streaming until the child has demonstrated the ability to handle peer pressure and make responsible decisions online. So, there are a lot of things that as parents that we can do to monitor, what our child does on social media. A lot of things, and you know, again, just going back to when we were kids, with no smartphone, no social media. If you had an issue with another kid in your neighborhood, at your school, whatever, you dealt with that head on, face to face. There was no. sharing something for the world to see. There was no chit chat. There was no posting. There was no public humiliation and ridicule and whatever. It was face to face, and there was no way to get around it. Now, kids can share with the whole school, the whole community, the whole neighborhood, the whole city, the whole state, the whole country, the whole world. Very dangerous thing that social media can be for kids. Very, very dangerous. And it makes me glad that we didn't have that uh, growing up. Makes me real glad. So I was looking, I didn't even know this until I actually had come across it a few days ago. There is a new Transformers animated movie coming out. Let me pull this up here. Generation 1, by the way. Let me find this here. Did not know this, by the way. Let me find it here. There we go. All right. So there's a new Transformers animated movie coming out called Transformers 1. It's delayed, by the way. But the new release is set for Chris Hemsworth to lead the movie. By the way, this is by Maggie Della Paz. Don't want to cut anybody short for their credit here. According to Deadline, Paramount Pictures has changed the release date for E1's forthcoming animated prequel revolving around the origins of Cybertron, Transformers 1. Originally scheduled for a July 19th, 2024 release, the movie has now been officially pushed back to September 13th of 2024. Its current, excuse me, its current theatrical release date will see the Transformers 1 debuting in the same month as two other high-profile features, including Tim Burton's long-awaited Beetlejuice sequel and Marvel Studios' live-action Blade movie. That's going to be one badass summer. Blade, Beetlejuice sequel. I'm excited about those. Who's involved in Transformers 1? Let's see here. Transformers 1 will be directed by Toy Story 4's Josh Cooley from a screenplay written by Andrew Barrer, Steve Desmond, uh, Gabriel Ferrari, and Michael Sherman. The animated prequel will feature the voices of Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, Scarlett Johansson as Elita, Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, Keegan Michael Key as Bumblebee. I get a kick out of that because of the Paramount commercial where he pronounces Bumblebee's name wrong. John Hamm as Sentinel Prime and Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Tron. I'm excited about that. That's a star-studded lineup there, especially with Lawrence Fishburne doing voices. While not too much is known about the movie, uh, De Bonaventura recently opened up on what to expect from it. According to De Bonaventura, the project will actually focus on the origins of a young Megatron and young Optimus Prime, as the two start out as friends before ending up on rival sides of the battlefield. The reason for covering this as an animated film, he says, is because it was simply financially impossible to do in a live action format. Which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm actually thankful that they're not doing it as a live action because honestly, the after the first two Transformers live action films, to me personally, they just really weren't that good at all. Weren't that good. So I am excited for that. Very, very excited. So, but let me do this here. But once again, I'm glad to be back here, sitting here, doing this. It's always fun. to do that. Let me close that out here. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to do it bi-weekly. I know 9 o'clock in the morning is early, but it's the weekend, and it's fun to get up and drink coffee and relax and just talk about what's going on in the world. So we're going to try to do this bi-weekly at the very least, once a month, but we will be back here in 2 weeks from now, 2 Sundays from now. And I appreciate, as always, each and every one of you to stop by and take a listen. Uh, Please, by all means, share. Sharing is caring. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you here in 2 weeks.